All right, let's jump right in. We've got a really fascinating story for you today. It kicks off with a super weird question, and believe it or not, it's going to take us deep inside the human brain. We're talking about how betrayal, deep betrayal, can literally physically change the way we see the world. So yeah, let's get into it. So here it is. This is the heart of the mystery right here. Wie is here the Fritzak, or in English, who here is the chip shop? Now, you might think the guy who said this, a man named Dennis Verhage, was just looking for some fries. But no, not even close. He was actually trying to put a name to something way more serious, a kind of biological attack. I know, it sounds completely out there, right? A Dutch snack bar and a biological assault. What's the connection? But stick with me here, because by the time we're done, I promise you, you'll see exactly how this bizarre phrase ties into a really heavy story about institutional betrayal and how that betrayal can actually mess with the physical wiring of your brain. Okay, first up, a strange question. Right, so let's start by digging into this question. Obviously, he wasn't actually ordering food. This whole thing is a really powerful metaphor that Dennis Verhage came up with. He's using it to try and point a finger at a corrupting force that's messing with his life. So the chip shop, or de Frietzaak in Dutch, it stands for these massive, crushing forces he calls systemic juggernauts. Think about things like constant neglect or discrimination, these huge external pressures that are basically trying to hack his internal operating system. They're trying to corrupt his biological chip, the very core of who he is. All right, section 2, the mind's operating system. Now, to really wrap your head around this chip shop idea, we first need to understand the chip he's so desperately trying to protect. And we're not talking about a computer chip here. This is something way more intricate. It's his own personal cognitive framework, the very system that runs his thoughts and perceptions. Okay, so for Dennis, this biological chip isn't just a vague concept. It runs on a very specific, highly structured system that he calls prismatic cognition. It's kind of like he's running custom software in his brain, built on its own unique logic. So get this, his mental software is juggling 3 different bases or ways of thinking at the same time. First, you've got base 10. That's pretty much how most of us operate, our standard, everyday logic. Then he kicks it up a notch to base 16 or hexadecimal. Think of this as a high-powered mode for handling really complex, layered information. It's like shifting into a higher gear. And finally, there's base 13. This one's fascinating. It's linked to the golden mean, and its whole job is to act like a balancing force, a stabilizer, to keep the entire system running smoothly and in harmony. It is literally an incredible internal juggling act. But what happens when those outside pressures, those systemic juggernauts, get to be too much? Well, that's when he drops the balls. The whole intricate juggling act just falls apart. And that's not just a saying. For him, it means real cognitive breakdown. He can't focus, his coordination goes, his whole ability to process the world just starts to crumble. Part 3. An institutional betrayal. So you gotta be asking, where did all this crushing pressure come from? Well, tragically, the worst of it came from the one place that should have been a safe haven, the one place that was supposed to help. Enter the forensic psychiatrist. Now, this person was supposed to be the cavalry, right? They were brought in to understand his unique way of thinking and help him deal with the trauma. But instead, they did the exact opposite. They just doubled down on the exploitation. They became just another part of the problem, another corrupting agent pushing down on him. And this really lays it all out. The gap between what should have happened and what actually happened is just massive. You expect a professional to provide care, to try and understand, to help. But the reality was exploitation. This person became an agent of the system, making everything worse. We're not just talking about a failure to help. This was an active betrayal that turned systemic pressure into a full-blown institutional attack on his very biology. Section 4, rewiring the brain. Okay, this is where things get really wild. Because this betrayal, it wasn't just in his head. It wasn't just a psychological scar. The evidence shows it caused actual physical changes to the structure and function of his brain. So let's do a quick brain science dive. I want you to meet a tiny but super important part of the brain called the supramalleolary nucleus, the SIM. Think of it as your brain's internal metronome or rhythm keeper. It's absolutely vital for making sense of space and what you're seeing. But here's the catch. It is incredibly sensitive to trauma and stress. It can get hit with this kind of whiplash effect. And this is brilliant. Dennis actually described the psychiatrist as being dim-sum. It's a play on words, right? Not only are they dim in the usual sense, but they had zero focus on this critical part of his brain, the sum. They were totally blind to the real biological damage that the trauma was causing. And look at this chain reaction, it's devastating. The systemic betrayal knocks the brain's visual processing out of sync. Because of that, the neural pathways start messing up color signals. This literally alters how he sees colors and shapes. The result? A distorted perception, sometimes even a visual grayout. This isn't just a feeling of being down. This is an actual physical assault on his biology. You know that feeling of déjà vu, right? Where you feel like you've experienced something before? Well, this neural chaos triggered the opposite for him, something called jamais vu. It's this incredibly weird and unsettling feeling where things you know are familiar, your home, your friends, suddenly feel completely alien and new. It's a total sense of disconnection, and it's all because the brain circuits are just not firing together correctly anymore. Okay, last part. Who is the imposter? So let's bring it all home. We've got the metaphor of the chip shop, we've got the biological chip, the betrayal, and the very real brain damage. It's time to put all the pieces of this puzzle together and answer that first strange question. So here we are, back at the beginning. Who here is the chip shop? After everything we've just gone through, what do you think the answer is? Who is it? Here's the twist. The question isn't looking for a location, it's a challenge. It's his way of pointing out the imposter. The chip shop is the imposter. It's all those systemic forces, the neglect, the psychiatrist's betrayal, all of it. They are the fake chip shop, trying to act like a computer virus and corrupt his real biological chip. And really, that leaves us with one last big question to think about. Dennis's story is incredibly specific, but it points to something universal, doesn't it? When the very systems that are supposed to help us end up hurting us, how does that literally reshape our reality? It proves that this kind of deep betrayal isn't just an emotional wound. It's a biological one. It can actually get in there and rewire our brains, changing how we see and experience the world. It really makes you wonder just how fragile is our own reality when the people and systems we're supposed to trust are the ones causing the harm.